From the rugged shore and woodlands of the north, its history of copper mines and iron ore, the Great Lakes fisheries. To the farmlands of the southern counties we'll look around again, at all that waits the sportsman in the state of Michigan. And sometimes when the moon brings out the diamonds in the snow, and the stillness of the forest lies encased in Arctic cold, the wind might whisper through the trees, listen if you can, it tells you of the beauty in this state of Michigan.
Hi there, come on in. You know, we just had our traditional pheasant season opener. Always opens on October 20th. Years ago, it used to be a big day. Well, our pheasant population has just tumbled over the years, but we've had an upturn this past season. We have an opening day report. We went hunting last week on Thursday and Friday. We're bringing it to you. How was the pheasant season this season? Well, I'll tell you in just a moment. You stay tuned. I'm Fred Trost. It's Thursday night. Time for Michigan Outdoors. It's a foggy October sunrise on a special day, a day filled with tradition. It's the annual opening day of pheasant season. Dogs are ready and hunters are ready. But throughout many Midwestern states, there's only one thing missing: pheasants.
If it's been at all damp like this and frosty.
Mike Francis has hunted Michigan pheasants for years, and this morning the conditions look ideal. We're hunting a pocket of land that's been a bonanza for Mike and his hunting buddy, Dan DeLong. Every year for quite some time, both Mike and Dan have taken their opening day limits in these fields. And like in many places, as the pheasants have declined, white-tailed deer have increased. We see tracks everywhere. Some big tracks from big corn-fed bucks and does. Mike points to one of the woods where he has a tree stand, and he and Dan usually take their deer from these fields each season. 30 years ago, seeing deer in the southern agricultural regions of Michigan was an oddity. Today, nearly as many deer are seen as rooster pheasants. We're sauntering down a lane between two cornfields on the way to a big fallow field where the pheasants roost. Now, on a day like this, we don't expect birds to move to the corn until 9:30 or 10. Certainly not at daybreak, but watch the top of the corn at the far right of your screen. Was that a surprise? A rooster flushes as we're talking, and in a flash, we're all ready with our guns. In slow motion, you can see us all shoulder our shotguns at the sound of the cackling rooster. I shot first. Mike followed a tenth of a second later, and the bird went down. Dan charged in to retrieve the rooster while Mike and I were recuperating from the shock.
Right on the spot, eh? Woo!
And I jumped to an early conclusion.
Back. Pheasants are back again. We've got one.
Yep.
You know what? And it's not even 8 o'clock.
Yeah. Well,
Beautifully done. Who
serious-
got that one? I think you did.
No, I don't know.
I think
We
you did.
both shot at the same time, so. Yeah.
You find it?
It wasn't difficult for the dogs to find the bird. Not many weeds are between the corn rows nowadays. Farming is pretty clean. But clean farming can't take total credit for the demise of the ringneck pheasant in the east. States like South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, and Iowa are heavily farmed, but they still have ample pheasant populations. It could be that the genetics are different. That's why Michigan is trying an experiment to replace the traditional ringneck pheasant with the black-necked variety, one from China. Early indications are that these new Chinese birds nest in the brush, not in the farm fields, and their different behavior might give them the edge they need for survival in this day and age. And their genes, mixed with ringnecks, might invigorate our ringneck population.
Fred Trost with his first wild
In a while.
pheasant
Yeah, in a while.
of this year.
I've got to admit, this gave me a false hope that pheasant populations were on the increase in a significant way. The dogs were working well, the scenting conditions were ideal, visibility was good even in the fog. This is why pheasant hunting is so attractive to so many hunters. And at this hour, the birds still should be in the roosting fields.
I think so. As a matter of fact, I was surprised that we put that one up out of the corn. About 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning in this area is when they cruise into the corn. You know, I have a tree stand right over there, and I watch them meander into the corn and back into the field at night. So I think that they spent the night in here.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to believe that anyway. But we'll walk around here and then work this edge down, and we'll hopefully have a little action here. If not, we'll head right back into the corn.
The corn traditionally holds birds throughout the day when the sun burns the haze and the frost off of the fields. Well, we worked the roosting cover, first along the edges and fence rows, circling the field tighter and tighter. This was opening day.
They getting birdie?
Traditionally the best pheasant hunting of the season. We were full of anticipation at every step, especially as we reached the ends of the fields and the corners. That's where those roosters tend to pop out. The dogs were working well, but the pheasants weren't meeting our expectations. Early reports were that pheasant numbers should be up in the area we're hunting, close to 30% according to the Department of Natural Resources. They must be around here someplace. Habitat looks right, conditions look perfect, dogs are good, hunters are ready. Maybe they've moved to the corn. Well, we'll try a patch that always holds birds.
Okay, what, are we going to fan out or circle it or what?
Well, we're going to have to kind of go through
this
together.
path here.
Because
Okay.
it's just a short ways through here.
We moved quickly through this narrow band of corn to a small patch of wet grass and bulrushes. It's one spot where Dan and Mike have always kicked up birds, usually doubles.
Okay. Is it wet in there, do you know?
Nothing. Not a rooster, not a hen. Finally, it's late afternoon. Birds should be moving back to the roosting fields.
Right by you, Fred!
Oh, did you see that? Cameraman John Ford did, but I didn't. A rooster came gliding into the corn right behind me. Its wings were set, it was coming down. No cackling, I never saw it.
Right by you, Fred! Right!
That's hunting, being in the right place at the right time. By the time we drove that cornfield, Mike had seen 3 roosters, got a shot at one that he missed, but all of these birds were coming into the corn at the end of the day.
I was standing right up by those trees there, and as I was coming up, 2 roosters just come gliding in, and the closest one I shot as he was just lighting over the corn, and he came down in.
Why are they coming into the corn at this hour? I mean, you know, it's
Wonderful question.
5:30. They're supposed to be going the other direction.
Yeah. There's bones.
Well, we couldn't figure it out. There were pheasants and roosters at that, but they weren't where they were supposed to be when they were supposed to be there. An odd day, an odd year, I don't know. We're looking at the evolution of pheasant hunting in America, a valued tradition among hunters and among pheasant dogs that still remember the scent of old Mr. Ringneck. Maybe he'll be replaced by a new variety that will bring back pheasant hunters to once again enjoy what has been fading as an American hunting tradition.
Here's a good tasting Great Lakes fish, a burbot weighing in at 7.5 pounds, caught by Connie Crosby of Vestaburg at the mouth of the Ausable River. Now look at this big smallmouth bass weighing just a couple of ounces short of 6 pounds. It was 23 inches long and caught by Hugh Logston of Canton on Glen Lake in Leelanau County. This big 22-pound, 12-ounce northern made a big mistake when it came after Douglas Brand of East Tawas' Shiner decoy. Doug was spearing in Iosco County waters of Lake Huron. An old friend Richie Wales of Quinnipiac was one of the first hunters to check in his big buck opening day last year. It's a 14-pointer. James Rademacher of Escanaba called in this big tom the first part of the season in Menominee County. It weighed 19.5 pounds and had an 8.5-inch beard. Dwayne Miller was a lucky angler fishing early in July in the middle of the night on Muskegon Lake with Captain Mark Martin. They were trolling rebels when Doug hooked into this monster walleye. It weighed 10 pounds, went 30.25 inches, and for having a real trophy walleye, let's make Dwayne Miller of Kentwood our Michigan Outdoors Trophy Angler of the Week.
Hunting and fishing laws vary from state to state and country to country, such as the one relating to trolling gear. Harris Cox from Whitehorse, Yukon in Canada asks, how many states, provinces, and territories ban downriggers? Or is the Yukon the only one with a mixed-up fishing department? Well, that's a loaded question, Harris. Before you put too much blame on your local fish and game department, realize it could very well be the legislative body, not the department, that made the law. New Zealand is the only other place that bans downriggers. In fact, weighted jigs are outlawed in New Zealand. So when you fish a different area, remember to check the local laws. Sometimes they can be much more restrictive than you'd think. Dean Emedy from Saginaw caught a Chinook in the Au Sable River. This was 40 and 5/8 inches long. It was only 24 and a half pounds. Skinny little torpedo, huh?
Was. Caught a lot fatter ones.
You were casting a Cleo. Was this at the mouth of the Au Sable?
No, a friend of mine told me about a spot about 6 years ago, and we looked for it for about 4 and finally found it, and we've caught 30 or 40 a year since.
Well, that's great. Be interested to see what a 24-pound, 40-inch salmon looks like. That's going to look sort of like a northern pike. Well, congratulations. You made the trophy book, that 40-inch minimum. Dwayne Miller from Kentwood. We're up into the 10-pounders right now. This one on the top is a 10-pound walleye. What's that little itty-bitty one down there?
8.5.
Did you get these mounted at the same time?
Yeah, Mike Heiner did it up there with. We went with Mark.
And you were fishing. Oh, you were lucky. You got this before midnight.
Yep. Just. We left about 11:30 from the landing when we met Mark, and we hadn't been fishing 10 minutes. Those ones I was in Canada 2 weeks prior to that. I caught that one.
2 weeks prior to that, you can zoom in on that, John. How big is it?
That one was, it was a 1/4 inch shorter than this one. I mean, only the scales we had, it went up to 6 pounds, so I really don't know what it weighed. And we had to tie it out because it was in an outpost camp, and I was going to bring it in on a Wednesday. You can look at the next picture and see what happened Tuesday night.
Tuesday night? What happened to that?
The otters got it.
Otters?
Yeah. Ate it all up, as you can see. And so then we come back, and 2 weeks later we was fishing with Mark, and got these. We made up for it big. We got 8 that night.
That would make a real gruesome mount, though.
I was going to have it mounted, but then I decided not to.
I guess. Well, we'll put both of them in the trophy book. Congratulations on that. Dwayne Miller. Carol Arney from Berrien Springs, way down in the southwest corner of the state. You were fishing Berrien County, Black Lake down there?
Yes.
And this was in opening day?
Second day.
Second day of the season. You were fishing with a night crawler. Now, you must have been going for bass.
Yes. And I thought I was snagged. And then I saw it come out of the water, and I screamed, "Get the net!" And my husband didn't bring a net. And then we got it to the boat, and he dropped it back in the water.
You mean how did he pick it up?
By the mouth, but it jumped off. And I'm having a heart attack by this time.
What'd you say to him?
I don't remember. Probably something.
What was it? Could he hear it? Did you
Probably. I
said
think
it loud enough?
everybody on the lake could hear it.
So it went back in the water. Then what?
Then we got it the next time. And then I probably was going to let it go, but he said, maybe you could win something with this fish. You know, it's the biggest one I ever caught.
Well, I guess a 22 1/4 inch, 6-pound, 5-ounce largemouth bass. You getting it mounted?
Yes, it's mounted.
Good work. Well, congratulations on that fish. What a story. Carol Arney from Berrien Springs. And just before our drawing here, we have the largest channel cat of the evening. This one was 16 pounds, 1 ounce. You have the photo. Is that the only evidence that's left?
That's all the evidence that's left. He's out swimming in the lake right now someplace.
Oh, he is.
Yeah, I figure it's too ugly to eat.
You were still fishing a sucker on the Tittabawassee River. Were you fishing for pike or fishing for channel?
Fishing for channel cat. We had left the line out, and I was over by my other line, and I looked back at this line, which didn't have a clicker on it. It was a spinning reel, and the thing was straight across the river. And I says, boy, I got either a log or something. I like heaved back on the line and started coming in, fighting. About 15 minutes later, he was close to the net. A couple of passes, we got him in.
Do you let all of your channel cats go?
I let 11 and a 13-pounder go last year. This was prior to finding out that all I needed was 8-pound for a master angler. So this one I kept, brought it back home to Detroit, got it weighed, let it go.
How long did it take to do that?
Well, probably about 3 hours. By the time I got back, it was Sunday night. Tackle shops were closed. Guy that mounted my deer head has a certified scale on the shores. Brought it to him. He weighed it for me. Brought it to the boat ramp, and I launched it. Let them go.
Launched the 16-pounder. I mean, that is one great channel cat. Do you ever eat the smaller ones?
The smaller ones are real good, excellent smoked, really good. We smoked a lot of them this year. They're very good eating that way. And the smaller ones are great fried, too. Real good.
And these make great pictures.
That's for sure.
And they get you in the trophy book.
That's it.
Congratulations. The biggest channel cat here, 16 pounds. Mark Van Basler. George Rudish from Fraser got a Great Lakes Muskie on the Believer. There's the classic trolling bait for Muskie in Lake St. Clair. This was Macomb County, and this baby was 48 inches long. Hold those pictures up there for the camera. You got some dandies of this one. 27 pounds, 1 ounce. Just a normal day of fishing, George?
Not really. Quite a story behind this 27-pounder. We're fishing Anchor Bay. We hooked into this fish, and I asked my buddy to pull in all the rods so I could get this one in here, and I asked him to net the fish. He went to net the fish. He got the net caught on the Believer that was attached to the wash rod, so I couldn't net the fish. The fish is at the back of the boat thrashing. So he cut the mono. I was using 60-pound mono, and cut it with his teeth, and we finally netted the fish, brought it back to the well. As I was walking off the dock, I had musky slime on the bottom of my foot. I fell off the dock. As I was going down, my eye hit the cooler. I got a little black eye there. My arm went into a nail, okay, so I was bleeding all over. I had my wife's brand new Minolta 7000 camera around my neck. That went in the water, destroyed that. The fish came out of the cooler and was starting to revive, and I was kind of on its side, kind of swimming kind of weird, and so I asked my buddy to jump in the water. He jumped in the water, got it in a headlock. Some lady in the well next to me came over, and she was worried about all the blood in the water, so I handed her the camera, and we finally subdued the fish, got him back in the cooler, and weighed him in.
Well, that's one heck of a story. You survived it well. Your eye is healed up. You got great photos. Congratulations on that muskie. 27 pounds, 1 ounce for George Rudish from Fraser.
Of all species of deer around the world, only 2 never grow antlers. What do they grow instead? The small Asian musk deer and the Chinese water deer grow tusks, very similar to those of the extinct saber-toothed tiger.
Karen Flint from Newport was a winner in our Fish and Wild Game cooking contest with a small game casserole. I imagine, Kathy Beitler, we should use pheasant this time of year.
Yes, you should, but we're going to use squirrel. That's what we have right now. And you want to completely cook the squirrel and then just take it off the bones.
Look, squirrel is so good. A delectable wild game.
Oh, it is, and it adapts very well to this recipe. And then you've got broccoli, cream of mushroom soup, cheese whiz, rice, and some celery and onion that you're going to saute. And you just
real simple, a casserole.
Everything goes all in one dish. That's what makes it nice. And you do want to just saute this until it loses its color, not until it's completely browned. Then you can make your sauce all in one pan also. You're going to...
I wonder why cheese whiz. Why,
It'll give it a different texture and flavor than just your plain cream of mushroom soup. Now, you could use the nacho cheese soup that they have.
I bet you could use that hot... Velveeta has some real hot cheese.
Yep. Any of those substitutions would be great in this. And you're going to cook your broccoli and then add your wild game, whatever you have, pheasant, squirrel, rabbit, to it. And then go ahead and add the rice.
The rice on top, and then
the sauce.
That cheese sauce mixture.
Yep, and then just pour that and drizzle it down the top. Mm-hmm.
I wonder if Bob Garner will be able to tell that this is squirrel, or at least that it isn't chicken.
I think I could, because a store-bought chicken is generally a little fattier. There's a little more fat in the chicken than there is in this squirrel. I forgot for a second this was squirrel. But the meat is so good and so tender and so tasty. It's not only a way to make a real tough old squirrel edible, but it's a way to make it taste really great. I mean, this is superb.
I think it's a great way to stretch a recipe. I mean, you've got a little bit of meat, and boy, you can just really add to this.
One change I'd make in the recipe.
I give up.
I'd put more squirrels in. I mean, because it tastes so good.
Oh, it does, absolutely.
Yeah, but it's not thin on squirrels.
No.
There's enough meat in this recipe to make it really delicious. It's just a really kind of odd combination of ingredients. Really tastes good.
And the versatility again, almost any game.
Oh,
Any small
absolutely.
game.
I'll bet you this would taste excellent warmed up too, if it lasts that long, right?
If you didn't get all the ingredients written down from tonight's recipe, don't despair. We have it in the September-October issue of the Outdoor Digest magazine. So the hunting and fishing is good, but dress warmly and get outdoors this weekend. It's a great place to be. See you next week. Next week on Michigan Outdoors, we're going to launch into our pre-deer season coverage. We're going to take a look at some deer hunting techniques. Well, actually, we're going to look at still hunting, stalking deer, moving slowly through the woods. It's a tough way to hunt, but it can be effective. We have some experts to show us how. We're going to answer a letter. Somebody asked if Bob wears a toupee and wonders if deer can smell toupees if they're out hunting. We'll answer that, have a great recipe, and a lot more. So join me right here next week, right here on PBS.